Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Now, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent visit to Russia, which was his first in 5 years, highlighted the two key areas of the economic cooperation between the two countries. These are the oil trade and the construction of nuclear power plants with the supply of nuclear fuel. Now, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit showed the West, yet again, there's another part of the world that's bigger than the West and more than happy to be friends with and trade with Russia. Now, from an economic perspective, Modi's visit demonstrated two important points of its cooperation between Russia and India: peaceful nuclear energy and oil. The Indian PM noted that the world should thank it for doing business with Russia and producing particularly petroleum products from Russian oil. He said, "The whole world was facing a fuel crisis, but through our cooperation we have been able to avoid any hardship for ordinary citizens around the world, and we're providing them with petrol, diesel and petroleum products. So the whole world should recognise that through Indo-Russian cooperation in the energy sector, we have ensured stability in the global market." Modi said during his meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin, almost everything that used to go to the European market now goes to the Indian crude and refining market. In India, the business was already established by 2022 when and oil refineries on the Indian coast bought the crude oil, processed and exported the resulting oil products as profitable even if they bought the oil at market prices. Now, India used to import crude from Iraq, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Now Russia's replaced them all and has become the largest supplier to India, and they're the largest market for us, and we transport the oil by sea, said Igor Yushkov, who's from the National Energy Security Fund. Now, it's clear that the business began to generate even more revenue when India started buying Russia oil from at a discount. I mean, the analyst believes that India has come to negotiate with Russia on concluding long-term contracts for the supply of crude oil at a fixed discount, not the market price. Of course, this is advantageous for India to fix the discount in oil, as it's been decreasing for the last 6 months against the background of the stabilisation of the market. Now, before I continue, I'd like to appeal for your support for my channel, which will help me develop it, and my website, SCOBRICSInsight.com. You can do that by making a small donation, and all you have to do is click on the thanks button on the screen under this video. Now, I appreciate all donations, and I will thank everybody who makes a donation personally. Now, Russia sells about 85% of its current oil production to two countries, India and China, and it probably would like to diversify its supplies. It'd be beneficial for it to sell some of its oil under long-term contracts. This guarantees a market, but some of its oil under short-term contracts to be beneficial to redirect it to alternative markets and get a higher price. I mean, since Russia is the main supplier of crude oil to India, this means that the petroleum products that India supplies to countries unfriendly to Russia, for example Singapore, US and Australia, are mainly made from Russian raw materials, and they actually pay a lot more for them. I mean, from January to April 2024, India exported petrol and diesel worth 18.4 billion. Most of that went to the Netherlands, 10.9 billion, Singapore 5.7, UAE 5.4, and the US 5 billion, Australia 3.5, and South Africa 3.2 billion. Well, it's Gerasimov, who's of the Russian OECD Centre. I mean, since 2022, the trade relationship between the two countries has grown significantly. I mean, Russia's share of Indian imports went from 1.2%, which is 8.7 billion, to 10%, which is 67 billion in 2023. At the same time, the overwhelming majority of imports, 87, were Russian energy products. And overall, the trade turnover between the two countries increased by a factor of 12 over the past 10 years. In January to April 2024, according to calculations, Russia accounted for 35% of oil supplies to China, and in April, Russia accounted for 40.3% of supplies to India. Now, Russia and India aim to reach 100 billion in mutual trade by 2030, and Maxim Oreskins says the main result of the meeting between Modi was the agreed programme of the cooperation between the two countries until 2030. Now, in the field of peaceful atomic energy, India has a long history of cooperation with Rosatom. 2 new units of the Kudakulam NPP were built in 2013 and 2017. The 3rd and 4th units are underway. Plus, there's a framework agreement for the construction of the 5th and 6th units of the 3rd stage. I mean, currently India is discussing with Rosatom the construction of 6 more high-power units at the new site, as well as the construction of smaller nuclear power plants. I mean, Russia and India are likely to agree on long-term uranium supplies for nuclear power plants to be commissioned in the southern state of Tamil Nadu, citing officials familiar with the matter. Now, most of India's uranium comes from the Uranium Corporation of India's mines in the northern state of Jharkhand, where reserves are rapidly dwindling. So efforts to develop mines in other states such as Andhra Pradesh and Meghalaya have failed to meet expectations. So this is increasing India's dependence on imports. As a result, India has entered into the spot fuel purchase agreements with countries including Kazakhstan, Russia, France, Uzbekistan and Canada. Now, the conclusion of long-term agreements on uranium and nuclear fuel is logical, especially in the event of the US's alleged total ban on the purchase of Russian uranium and nuclear fuel. India will then have a contract to back up its position, but it needs its nuclear fuel from Russia in any case, says Igor Yushkov. I mean, as for the development of the nuclear sector, India has very ambitious plans. It wants 6 new reactors, which is not really that much for India. It's the most populous country in the world, and it doesn't have electricity everywhere. If the entire population is supplied with electricity, there'll be a huge leap in consumption, says Yushkov. I mean, Rosatom, for its part, wants to diversify its nuclear projects and build in India not only new VVER 1200 units, which are mainly exported to Belarus, Turkey, etc., but small nuclear power plants. Through India, Rosatom is promoting its new project on the water, the small nuclear power plants. These are the same power units that are installed on the nuclear icebreakers. These small NPPs can supply individual regions without the need to build large infrastructure and connect them to the general power grid. I mean, these could be like floating NPPs, such as the PEVEC floating NPP in Chukotka. Do watch my video regarding Russia's nuclear exports, which goes into detail on that. So Russia probably sees good conditions for India to carry out the first project on its territory and demonstrate its know-how to the whole world. I mean, India has 22 reactors and 7 nuclear power plants. Most of them they developed indigenously, but there are also some Russian reactors. I mean, at the same time, India has ambitious plans to expand its nuclear power in the country. In April 2023, the government announced plans to triple its nuclear capacity from 6,718 megawatts to 22,418 megawatts by 2031, with nuclear power accounting for 9% of its electricity by 2047. Now, this is a significant change in priorities because previously coal generation was dominant. Now India has shifted its priorities to the use of clean energy, renewable energy and nuclear. After thermal energy, renewable energy is the second largest source of electricity generation in India, underlining its crucial position in the country's energy system. At the same time, the country's grid complex is being improved, which is a necessary component for the integration of nuclear power plants, notes Mikhail Akim, who's a professor at the Higher School of Business. Now, the analyst believes that India is trying to avoid a repeat of the situation in 2012, when one of the country's 5 grid companies failed with a load of 35,669 megawatts in the early hours of the morning. Well, it failed again the next day along with parts of 2 other grids. As a result, more than half the population in 22 states were left without power for up to a day. Now, nuclear power plants are a good choice for power generation because they provide a stable base load, not a variable load in the grid. Now, India has high rates of economic growth and energy consumption, so it's important to cover the base load and regulate the peak load, for example, with thermal generation. So the construction of nuclear power plants is extremely complex compared with thermal power generation, But Rosatom has a high level of confidence, and the company continues to build new plants and meet its obligations in terms of construction deadlines and budget execution. I mean, when nuclear power plants abroad, Rosatom usually supplies the nuclear fuel, in addition to working with external contractors. This gives India, which has its own reactors, access to another engineering school and the opportunity to work with other technologies and approaches. So, in summary, India and Russia in the BRICS and the SCO continue to work closely in the important field of energy, and this will power the success of BRICS and the SCO. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, you can help me fund the channel and the website SCO BRICS Insight.com by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.